There are 4 parts to this test: 1, 2, 3 and 4. Part 1. Wildlife on golf courses. You will hear a talk about the wildlife found on golf courses. For questions 1 to 10, complete the sentences.
Golf today is one of the fastest growing sports. There are now almost 2,500 courses in Britain, and that number is increasing each year. With a growing number of people wanting to take up the game, more and more clubs are being formed to meet demand. All over the country, new courses are being constructed on farmland no longer needed for that purpose because of the increased efficiency of modern agricultural methods. Yet it's not just the golfers who are benefiting from this rapid expansion. Many of the courses provide a haven for wildlife, and most of the new courses under construction have been planned carefully to ensure that this will always be so. With proper planning, the land used in developing these new courses not only provides much-needed new playing facilities, it also creates an environment in which the natural wildlife can flourish. While some forms of wildlife on courses are positively encouraged, there are, however, a few animals that can only be regarded as a nuisance. Moles love golf courses, and they thrive on them. But as they surface, they push up piles of earth above the grass that do considerable damage to the playing surface. Encouraging wildlife onto a golf course can prove counterproductive. What can you do if a magpie removes your ball from the hole and flies away with it? But the vast majority of wildlife on a golf course helps maintain nature's natural balance, and in addition, provides an attractive and interesting backdrop to the game. The ponds and lakes, for example, attract a large variety of plant and animal life, and it's surprising how quickly life appears in and around a newly created body of water. And the large variety of habitats that are often found on a course make finding food a little easier for the birds. At many coastal golf courses, adders can often be found. They don't present a threat to the golfers, as they are shy, timid snakes that glide off into the undergrowth if disturbed. Since they feed mainly on rodents, they play an important role in controlling the number of mice and other creatures that do damage to golf courses. Some inhabitants of the golf course are easily overlooked and only noticed when your ball lands close by. But you wouldn't want to get too close to the wood ants. They have a formidable bite and a painful sting. It may come as some surprise to learn that rabbits, probably the biggest natural pests on a golf course, may have been a direct inspiration for the game in the first place, since it is said that golf was first played by Scottish shepherds hitting small stones into rabbit holes. This doesn't, however, excuse them for digging up carefully looked after playing surfaces. And so, there's little doubt that as well as the enjoyment golfers receive from the game itself, golf is helping to provide a much-needed sanctuary for wildlife.
That is the end of Part 1. Part 2. Writing competition. You will hear the presenter of a radio program about books giving details of a competition. For questions 11 to 18, fill in the missing information.
And that's nearly the end of today's programme, except to give you, as I promised at the beginning, the details of our writing competition. As you may recall, we launched our short story competition last year, and the overwhelming response, together with the high standard of entries, has prompted us to hold it again this year. The competition is again being organised in conjunction with Your World magazine. Your story can be on any subject and must not be more than 2,500 words long. Entrants may submit one story only, and it must be typed and double-spaced on one side of the paper only. Please note that entries will not be returned, so we suggest that you send in a clear copy of your story and keep the original. Entries must arrive by March the 27th, and when you send it, include a postcard containing your name, address and postcode, and a daytime telephone number. The panel of judges includes Elizabeth Grant, the editor of Your World, and Graham Gower, the successful novelist, whose latest book, Waste of Time, has just been published. The third judge is Mark Robinson, who gave up a high-powered job as a TV executive to write plays for television, several of which have been critically acclaimed. The winners will be announced on this programme in early May, and then in July, the winning story will be read on this programme and published in Your World. In addition to publication and broadcast, the first prize is a Wordsmith word processor worth over £700. 2 second prize winners will each receive a high-style word processor worth over £400, and a special prize of £100 donated by Graham Gower will go to the entry which shows most originality. So why not see if you can write a winning story, and then see it in print and hear it on the air, as well as winning wonderful prizes? Send your entries to the usual address: The Book Show, KP Radio, 13 Waterfall Place, Birmingham B3 6TF. So until the same time next week, goodbye.
That is the end of Part 2. Part 3. Making complaints. You will hear part of a radio programme about making complaints. For questions 19 to 28, complete the sentences.
Right. In this part of the show, I'm going to be talking about complaining, how to make proper complaints about shoddy goods and services, and how best to get things sorted out. And I have with me Joan Brand, the head of the Consumer Services Department, and Alan Flynn, principal lawyer for the Consumers Association. We'll be taking your calls, so if you want advice about a complaint, a reminder of our number, 071 973 9733. Alan, are lots of complaints settled very quickly these days? Do people say, OK, yes, I surrender, you're absolutely right? Or is there naturally a kind of wish to defend themselves and deflect complaints?
It depends upon the company you're involved with. I think if it's a good company that's bothered about its reputation, then they're aware that it's good public relations to get complaints sorted out quickly.
And who do you complain to, and how?
Well, if you've got a complaint against a shop, for instance, then there's often very little point in complaining to the assistant. They simply haven't got the authority to sort your complaint out. So ask to speak to the manager. If the manager's not there, then make sure you fix an appointment to see him. In many cases, that sort of face-to-face contact can sort things out. Or telephone the manager the next day. Go to the right sort of person in the organisation who has the authority to deal with complaints.
Joan, you'd back that up, would you?
Yes. I think it's important that the first thing you do when you go to the trader is to make sure you're talking to the right person. And go to the trader as soon as possible to put your case, because if you delay it unreasonably, you can create problems later on.
I wonder perhaps if you could give us a typical case history, if there is such a thing.
Well, one of the complaints that we come across often at this time of year are people who've gone away on holiday and they've found that the service that's been provided isn't what they expected. The hotel's nowhere near the beach, for instance, and it says in the brochure that it's only 200 metres down the road.
We've all had that.
We've all come across that sort of problem. What we also come across, however, is that people then decide to complain when they come home. Well, obviously that's silly. If you've got a complaint, talk to the representative on the spot, and with any luck, you can have your holiday problems sorted out there and then. If, however, that doesn't work, come back. Write to the tour operator, ask for compensation, and if they fob you off with a feeble excuse, then be persistent. Write again. And if you think you've got a case, then think about taking it to court.
Do you require a lot of determination and endurance?
You can do. Again, it depends upon the company concerned. But there are circumstances, perhaps with some large companies, where there seem to be lots and lots of barriers between you making your complaint and then getting through to somebody to sort it out.
And a case history from you. What is one that you remember particularly?
Perhaps somebody purchasing a pair of shoes, for example, and getting them home and perhaps wearing them once, and the heel falling off or some fault appearing, and then going back to the shop and being told, it's nothing to do with us, you've got to send them back to the manufacturer.
Well, what rights do we have? I mean, what constraints are there on manufacturers? Do they have to observe particular rules?
The basic rights by law actually lie with the shop. And when you purchase anything from one, there are 3 rights that the law gives you. First, the goods have got to be properly described. Secondly, the goods have got to be of a saleable quality.
And they've got to do what they're supposed to do, haven't they?
Yes, and additionally, if you say to a retailer that you want a product to do a particular thing for a particular purpose, it's got to be fit for that purpose.
OK, that's the subject launched, and I know that the calls are coming in. We're just sorting you out into some sort of order. So, we'll take a break now, and we'll be back in a minute.
That is the end of part 3. Part 4. Buildings. You will hear 5 extracts of different people talking about buildings. Task 1. Letters A to H list buildings. As you listen, put them in the order in which you hear them being talked about by completing the boxes numbered 29 to 33 with the appropriate letter. Task 2. Letters A to H list different opinions of the buildings being expressed by the people speaking in the 5 extracts. As you listen, put them in the order in which you hear them by completing the boxes numbered 34 to 38 with the appropriate letter.
Well, I know a lot of people rave about how remarkable the design of the place is, but quite frankly, I don't think much of it. I mean, once you're in it, you could wander about for hours without ever knowing where you are or where you're going. OK, it may be the very latest thing, but you try and find your way around it. I went there once for a meeting, and it took me ages to find the room I was looking for. All the corridors look exactly the same, and I didn't see any list of all the firms who have space there.
It's a huge building and all that, and there's no denying that the town needed it, but it has its drawbacks. It took me ages to find a toilet when I went to see something that was on in the main hall there, and they don't seem to have made much provision for the disabled, which caused us some trouble because I was there with a friend in a wheelchair. I think they should have put a bit more thought into the planning of it and considered the needs of everyone. Still, there are so many things going on there all the time that we certainly can't complain anymore that there's a lack of entertainment in this town.
It's terribly convenient for me. I mean, I can see it from my living room window. And all I have to do is pop out and I can pick up everything I need, virtually on my doorstep. Having said that though, I don't think it was a very good idea to put it there. I mean, it clashes with everything else so much. There's this whole row of buildings that have been there for ages and that we're all used to. And then there's this new thing, sticking out like a sore thumb. Like I say, I don't mind it as a building. I just sooner it wasn't there.
A lot of people have said that it's the best looking building in town, and I must say that I'm inclined to agree. Not that there's a lot to compare it with in this town. Still, it certainly looks most impressive when it's all lit up at night, and they say it's attracting a lot more people to the area. I haven't actually been in, but I know someone who stayed there, and they say the rooms are on a rather grand scale, and the part where they hold conferences and other functions is rather splendid.
The route there isn't very well signposted, which is a serious mistake in my view. You'd think they'd make sure that people had no trouble getting there. I mean, it's not exactly close to anywhere else. It's in a rather out-of-the-way place, so that's really important. There aren't enough trains into town from it either, I gather, and there isn't very much information in the place, which is awful. I mean, there's nothing worse if you've just touched down in a strange place than not knowing what to do or where to go once you've arrived. They made such a fuss about building it and how much good it would do to the town, you'd have thought they'd have made an effort to make sure the people who use it get a good impression.
That is the end of part 4.